Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm so glad you could join us because, if you're looking to get smart quickly without just drowning in information overload, you are definitely in the right place.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're here for, bypassing the noise.
Right. And our mission for today's deep dive is to unpack this really fascinating AI News Daily Digest from today, July 11, 2026.
Which is packed with some pretty heavy stuff.
It really is. And, the original source material frames this as just your standard news update, like a list of shiny new tech tools. But we are going to extract the underlying narrative here. We're looking at sources across three distinct areas: healthcare, education and workforce, and finance.
And, when you lay those three sectors out side by side, you kind of stop seeing isolated tech updates. You start seeing this complete overhaul of the human timeline.
Oh, I like that. Overhaul of the human timeline.
Yeah, I mean, it's this active transformation of how we preserve our biological bodies, how we train our minds, and then ultimately how we secure our futures. This isn't just software updates, it's a fundamental rewiring of the human life cycle.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the healthcare developments because, well, the mechanics of this Alzheimer's diagnostic tool from the digest are just mind-bending.
They really are. It's a massive leap forward.
Right. So the source describes this new AI-driven tool from a leading university, and it detects early signs of Alzheimer's disease with unprecedented accuracy.
Right, long before any symptoms actually appear.
Exactly. But I want to get into the how, because, a human neurologist looks at a brain scan and they're looking for visible plaque or visible shrinkage. So what is this AI looking at that a human doctor just can't see?
Well, it's basically looking at the invisible spaces between the data points. The traditional diagnostic model is super linear, right? You experience memory loss, you go to a
You
specialist.
take an MRI.
Exactly. They take the MRI and they look for macroscopic neurological damage.
Hmm.
But by the time that damage is actually visible to the human eye, the disease has already been progressing for a decade.
Wow, 10 years.
Yeah. So this new AI model operates on what they call multimodal data synthesis.
Hmm.
It's analyzing these 3D structural brain scans at a super granular pixel-by-pixel level.
So it's catching things a radiologist would just miss.
Completely. It's searching for this microatrophy in the hippocampus that is way too subtle for a human to flag.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't even stop there.
Wait, there's more.
Yeah, it cross-references that microscopic imaging data with a patient's entire medical history, like a longitudinal history.
Okay, so what does that actually look like in practice?
It looks at, say, a slight spike in blood pressure 5 years ago, combined with a reported bout of insomnia 3 years ago, and maybe a minor metabolic shift last month.
That is wild. It's weaving a web out of all these seemingly unrelated symptoms.
Exactly. A human doctor sees high blood pressure and, they treat the blood pressure. But the AI sees the blood pressure, maps it against that tiny microscopic change in brain tissue density, and flags a neurodegenerative disease 10 years before it manifests.
See, but that creates a massive logistical headache because imagine you get a push notification on your phone saying, hey, you're going to develop Alzheimer's in a decade, but you feel completely fine.
Right, you haven't forgotten a single name.
Exactly. So how do you actually treat a ghost? If there are no symptoms, how does analyzing medical history and brain scans to catch a disease before symptoms actually change the paradigm of patient care?
What's fascinating here is that this technology forces a complete paradigm shift from reactive medicine to proactive health optimization.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because our entire medical infrastructure, pharmaceuticals, insurance, clinical workflows, it's all built to react to failure.
We wait for the system to break and then we try to fix it.
Exactly. But this AI flips the timeline. The treatment for a ghost disease, as you called it, isn't necessarily some massive invasive intervention.
So it's not like massive brain surgery.
No, not at all. It's highly tailored early-stage neuroprotective therapies. We are talking about custom pharmacological compounds introduced when the brain is still highly plastic.
So it can still defend itself.
Right. You're fundamentally altering the trajectory of the disease. AI isn't just treating diseases anymore. It is shifting the timeline of human illness, intervening before the damage is even visible.
Which brings us directly to the second healthcare breakthrough in our digest. Because early detection is, well, it's pretty useless if the treatments take 20 years and $5 billion to develop.
Oh, absolutely. The research costs are usually massive financial barriers.
Right. And the source material highlights this startup that's using AI to streamline drug discovery. They're simulating millions of chemical reactions in just a fraction of the time compared to traditional methods.
It's a total game changer for research costs and speed.
I look at it like having a billion virtual chemists working overnight in this fast-forward simulation. You aren't physically mixing chemicals in beakers to see what explodes anymore.
No, you definitely aren't.
You just have a supercomputer calculating the exact atomic interactions in a digital space.
Yeah, and the underlying mechanism there is computational biology reaching a point of almost total fidelity.
Total fidelity. What do you mean by that?
Well, traditional drug discovery relies so heavily on physical trial and error, right? You identify a target protein associated with a disease,
Okay.
and then you just physically test thousands of compounds to see if any of them happen to bind to that protein.
That sounds incredibly inefficient.
It is. It's so slow. But the AI models this startup is deploying actually understand the underlying laws of physics and chemistry and thermodynamics.
Wow.
So they can take the 3D structure of a disease-causing protein and instantly generate a novel molecular compound that is perfectly shaped to bind to it and neutralize it.
But I mean, simulation isn't reality, right? Like a computer model might say a perfectly designed molecule will bind to a protein in a digital vacuum, but human biology is messy.
It's very messy.
Yeah, it's full of enzymes and acids and all these unpredictable variables. So does the digital simulation actually translate to faster life-saving medications in the real physical world?
The data in the source indicates a resounding yes, actually. And that's because the simulation is no longer a vacuum.
Oh, okay.
The AI actually accounts for that messy biological environment. It predicts the binding affinity, sure, but it also predicts toxicity, metabolization rates, potential off-target side effects, all before a single physical compound is ever synthesized in a lab.
That is insane. So it basically skips the whole, let's hope this doesn't poison the patient phase of early testing.
Exactly. And that drastically reduces the failure rate in human clinical trials, which is where the vast majority of research costs and time delays happen.
So you pair these two sources together. The diagnostic AI spots the disease a decade early, and the computational chemistry AI engineers the exact custom compound needed to stop it.
Yep, and developed at a fraction of the historical cost.
Okay, so we've seen how AI is preserving our brains and bodies, but what about how it trains them? Because an extended biological runway means nothing if the human mind isn't equipped to navigate the modern world.
Right, we move from health optimization to cognitive and career optimization.
Exactly. So let's transition into the second major theme of today's digest, which is education and workforce development. The source details this pilot program rolling out in several schools that introduces AI-powered tutors.
And this is huge.
It is. But I want to be really clear about the mechanics here because these are not just glorified search engines or digital flashcards.
Oh, far from it. These tutors represent the scaling of the personalized mind. The core technology here relies on something called real-time knowledge tracing.
Real-time knowledge tracing. Okay, break that down for me.
So as a student interacts with the AI tutor, say they're working through a complex algebra problem, the AI isn't just checking if the final answer is right or wrong.
It's looking deeper than that.
Much deeper. It's analyzing the exact moment the student hesitated. It tracks which specific variable caused the confusion. It maps this high-dimensional model of that individual student's cognitive state.
Wow, so it knows exactly how their brain is processing the math.
Yes. And then it dynamically generates the next question to sit exactly at the edge of their current understanding. So the AI adapts to their specific learning pace.
Meaning the student is constantly challenged but never overwhelmed.
Exactly. No student is left behind because the instruction is literally tailored to them in real time.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. The immediate knee-jerk reaction a lot of people have to putting an AI tutor on every student's desk is fear.
Oh, yeah. The fear of replacement.
Right. People assume we're trying to replace human educators with algorithms just to cut costs. But the sources explicitly state the opposite.
Yeah, they do.
They say the AI handles the routine grading and the basic assessments. But wait, if the AI is doing all the actual teaching and adapting perfectly to the student, isn't the human teacher basically just reduced to a glorified babysitter?
I can see why people think that, but no.
Because why do we even need a human in the room if the machine is a better instructor?
Well, because learning is not purely a data transfer problem, right? It is a deeply emotional and psychological process.
Okay, fair point.
The old factory model of education forced teachers to just be data transfer nodes. They stood at the front of a room and broadcasted standardized information to 30 different minds, just hoping it would stick.
Right, teaching to the middle.
Exactly. But by outsourcing the routine grading and assessments to a machine that can scale personalization, you actually force the human teacher to become more human.
Oh, I see. So the classroom becomes more human because the teacher gets their time back.
Exactly. They're freed up from the administrative burden. So now they can focus entirely on motivation, empathy, complex critical thinking, and, interactive teaching methods.
They shift from being a lecturer to being a mentor.
Yes. The AI handles the algorithmic elements of learning, and the human handles the psychological elements of growth.
That is a massive structural shift. And it doesn't stop at the classroom door either. It bleeds directly into the adult job market.
It has to. The skills required are completely changing.
Right. And the Digest covers this new workforce initiative rolling out. It's equipping workers with something they're calling AI literacy for future jobs.
Utilizing online courses and workshops.
Yep. To demystify AI concepts for people from all walks of life. The goal is to bridge this massive skills gap. Now, the common analogy I hear is that this is just like the 1990s transition to the internet, right?
People love that analogy.
Yeah, like if you didn't learn how to use a web browser and email, you were entirely locked out of the modern office. But I don't know, I don't think that analogy goes deep enough.
I would agree with that.
Internet literacy was about search. AI literacy feels entirely different.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the internet literacy analogy really falls short because of the nature of the output.
Okay, how so?
Well, in the 90s, the internet gave you access to information, but you still had to synthesize that information, format it, and produce the final work product all by yourself.
You had to write the report.
Right.
Right.
But AI literacy is not about finding information. It is about managing an entity that does the synthesis for you. It's a totally different skill set.
So it's less like learning to use a library and more like what?
The better analogy is shifting from being a line cook to being the manager of a master chef.
Oh, wow. I love that. You don't need to know how to chop the onions perfectly anymore. You just need to know what dish to order and how to tell if the chef actually cooked it right.
Exactly. That's the mechanism of modern productivity. AI literacy means understanding how to construct a prompt that dictates the precise parameters of a task, whether that is, writing code or drafting a legal brief.
Or analyzing a massive spreadsheet.
Right. But crucially, it also involves the critical thinking required to evaluate the AI's output. You have to check for hallucinations, structural flaws, logical inconsistencies.
So you really are managing it.
You are. And the workforce initiative mentioned in the source proves that AI literacy is rapidly becoming the new foundational skill for the evolving job market.
So the workers who thrive aren't the ones trying to compete with the AI.
No, not at all. They'll be the ones who know how to direct it most effectively.
Okay, so you're healthy, thanks to predictive diagnostics. You've upskilled with a personalized AI tutor, and you're navigating the modern workforce as this highly leveraged manager of algorithms.
Sounds like a pretty good setup.
Right. But what happens to the money you earn? That brings us to the third and final sector covered in the digest, which is finance.
The preservation of wealth.
Exactly. The source outlines this massive transformation happening at two distinct levels: the institutional Wall Street level and the personal app level right on your smartphone.
And we should definitely examine the institutional level first, because the sheer scale of the data processing is staggering.
Yeah, the source mentioned investment firms using AI-driven algorithms.
Right, because they are no longer just relying on human analysts reading quarterly reports. They are deploying these algorithms to ingest and analyze vast amounts of data at lightning speed.
To analyze global market trends, right?
Yes, in real time.
Yeah.
We're talking about natural language processing models scanning millions of news articles, social media feeds, geopolitical dispatches, all simultaneously.
That is just an unfathomable amount of data.
It is. And they're using computer vision models to analyze satellite imagery of retail parking lots to predict stock performance and quarterly earnings before they're even announced.
Wait, really? Satellite images of parking lots?
Yeah. Or tracking cargo ships to model supply chain bottlenecks down to the minute. It helps investors increase returns and manage risks.
So they are processing variables that a human mind literally cannot hold in its working memory.
Exactly.
They find a correlation between like a localized weather event in South America and the stock price of a logistics company in Europe, and they just execute a trade in milliseconds.
It's operating on a completely different plane.
But the digest doesn't just focus on the massive hedge funds. It highlights the trickle-down of this technology into personal finance apps.
Which is where it really impacts everyday people.
Right. And these new apps, they don't just give you a pie chart of your past spending. They track spending, set budgets, automate savings, and provide personalized financial advice based on a user's habits and goals.
The mechanism there is predictive cash flow routing.
Predictive cash flow routing, how does that differ from what we have now?
Well, historically, personal finance apps were entirely backward-looking, right? They just told you that you spent way too much money on coffee last month.
Which is helpful, but a bit late.
Exactly. But these new AI tools are forward-looking. They analyze your income patterns, your recurring bills, and your granular behavioral spending habits to predict your future cash flow.
So it knows what you're going to do before you do it.
Pretty much. If the AI detects that you have surplus this week, but models a high probability of an expensive auto-renewal hitting next week, it proactively routes micro amounts of capital into high-yield accounts.
Oh, wow. So it generates interest for a few days and then automatically pulls it back to cover the bill.
Exactly. It optimizes every single dollar with surgical precision, and it operates entirely in the background.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Is AI essentially taking the tools of Wall Street elites and putting a personalized financial advisor in everyone's pocket?
That's the underlying narrative, yeah.
Because it sounds like AI is democratizing wealth management. But, I mean, I have to ask, if everybody has a supercomputer actively optimizing their bank accounts and predicting market trends, doesn't the market just absorb that?
What do you mean?
Well, if everyone has an algorithmic edge, then no one has an edge, right? We just homogenize the market.
This raises an important question about what we are actually optimizing for here.
Okay.
Because the goal of democratized AI in personal finance isn't necessarily to help the average retail investor beat the S&P 500 or outsmart a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund.
Right, because you're not going to beat Wall Street at their own game.
Exactly. You are correct. The market will price in the widespread use of algorithmic trading. But the true value for the individual user is the elimination of behavioral friction.
Behavioral friction, like making dumb mistakes.
Yes, the primary reason people fail to build wealth is not a lack of insider data. It's human error,
It's forgetting to invest.
or panic selling during a market dip, or succumbing to impulse purchases. The AI acts as an emotional firewall.
Ah, an emotional firewall. I like that.
By automating the savings, predicting the shortfalls, and doing all the heavy lifting without requiring human willpower, the AI ensures that the average person actually executes a sound financial plan over decades.
So it's democratizing the discipline of wealth management, not just the data, making it highly accessible to the average person.
Exactly. It removes the human flaw from the financial equation.
Which is incredible. And, when you step back and look at the entire landscape we've covered today, the narrative from this digest is just stunningly clear.
It really paints a cohesive picture.
It does. I mean, whether it is your health, your career, or your wallet, AI is no longer a distant, abstract concept being debated in some server room. It has become a deeply personalized, invisible co-pilot operating in the background of your daily life.
Yeah, the integration is total.
It's monitoring your medical history to keep you alive, adapting to your learning pace to keep you relevant, and predicting your stock performance to keep you secure.
But yeah, looking at these sources where AI steps in to perfectly optimize our biology, our learning, and our capital to ensure we avoid risk and eliminate failure, it leaves me with one final thought to ponder.
Oh, what's that?
Well, the defining characteristic of the human experience has always been the friction, right?
Yeah, the struggle.
We build resilience by making catastrophic financial mistakes and recovering from them. We develop grit by struggling for hours with a math concept that a tutor didn't perfectly map out for us.
That's very true.
So if AI is perfectly optimizing our health, our learning, and our finances to avoid risks and mistakes, how will this constant, seamless optimization change what it means to experience the messy, unoptimized trial and error reality of being human?
Wow.
If we outsource the friction of life to a machine, what happens to the resilience that friction builds?
That is a brilliant and honestly slightly terrifying question to leave on. A perfectly optimized algorithmic life versus a beautifully messy, resilient human one. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the July 2026 Digest. We hope this helped you bypass the noise and get smart on the real narrative shaping your world. Keep questioning the tools you use, keep exploring the world around you, and we will catch you next time.